Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to SFF180. It is Monday morning, February the 14th, and time once again for the mailbag. I hope you guys have had a great couple of weeks. Great weekend. Mine has been very, very good. Well, week before last, I went out of town. I was in Austin, ended up getting frozen in where I was, and so that wasn't so... Actually, that was pretty cool, because being frozen into my hotel room means that I knocked out an entire book. There was nothing else to do. So that was cool. And I was in a Hyatt place, so it wasn't exactly an unpleasant stay. So it would have been a lot worse if I was just in some dumpy little motel, so that was good. But this past week has been wonderful. Got back home, and the weather has been beautiful and blue and sunny, with just one exception, one morning, the entire time. So yeah, really good week. Been very productive over here, and we have a mailbag. We have a proper mailbag this week. I know the first few mailbags of the year were pretty small, a lot of, not a whole lot of new books coming in, but now it's like the books really have been coming in. So I'm estimating a minimum of 15 titles this week, so we're going to get right into them here in just a second. But one more thing before we continue. I'm very curious to know whether or not my videos are getting out to everybody's subscription feeds, because I know that can be and is intermittently a common problem on YouTube. Because the previous mailbag to this one, the January 1st episode, like the views were abnormally low. Abnormally low. And I'm like, okay, something's going on. It either just didn't get, the algorithms are just burying it or something. So anyway, if you missed that episode, and again, based on the view counts, a lot of you probably did, go give it a watch after this one. It's about 12 minutes. It could use some love. And let me know in the comments if this video this week actually turned up in your sub feed, because I've been, dubious. YouTube, you're just at the mercy of, whatever on this platform. So, yeah, it's great. It's free to use. It's wonderful. You can reach thousands of people, but at the same time, you have to deal with its little quirks, right? So, all right, that's about it for introductory stuff. Let's not waste any more time and get right into these books. All right, so we're going to start off with at least a few of these have come in from Random Penguin. And the first of these is a book called Inheritors of Power. The author is Juliet Wade, and this is the third and final volume in her trilogy called The Broken Trust. And I'll just read a little bit of this, and then I have some other commentary here. But this comes in from Daw Books this month. And let's see, it says, well, what can I read that won't be super spoilery? Many years have passed since the Eminence Nakantor and Heir Adon seized power. Life in Palusmara has found a fragile equilibrium under Nakantor's rule, and so on and so forth. But this is science fiction, I do believe. Anyway, it seems like it might very much appeal to, fans of Archie Martin's work and that sort of a thing. But take note, this is a trade paperback, and the first two volumes were put out by Daw in hardcover. And so I've been noticing a lot going on with Daw that worries me. They're an independent publisher, but they have a distribution deal with Random Penguin that allows Random Penguin to sort of like clutch the purse strings a little bit and say, yeah, you can do this, no, you can do that, and can't do that. And I'm a little worried that Random Penguin has basically decided we're done with Daw, and they're trying to choke this venerable imprint out. And it worries me. They even went so far as to refuse to fund a Michael Whelan cover for the next book in his Austin Ard series. Michael Whelan covers have been just a staple. And so why you would do that? Why would the parent company refuse to pay for the cover of a best-selling series by a best-selling writer that has, I would argue, contribute a great deal to the best-selling status of those books, right? Michael Whelan covers with Tad Williams books, it's kind of like peanut butter and jelly, right? Why would you not fund a sure thing unless you just were trying to say, no, we're done, go away? I'm worried that that's the case. A lot of other things are happening. Like, remember for years, the Tanith Lee reprints were happening, and they're still happening, but now none of them are coming out in mass market anymore. They're all going straight to ebook, the ones that are coming out this year. And it looks to me as if no more mass markets from DAW either, which will be a major transition, for an imprint that started out as a mass market imprint. So all of this I know is not specifically talking about Juliet's book here. So if you're a fan of this trilogy, by all means get the last one. But I am concerned about DAW's future under the Random Penguin umbrella, because it does not seem as if they are being treated well. It looks like they're trying to be ushered out the door. I mean, I get that things have been rough with, COVID times and all of that, but here, anyway, is another Random Penguin package. Okay, now this one is called The Paradox Hotel. It's by Rob Hart, who authored a book called The Warehouse, and I'm wondering if this is another sort of capitalist dystopia like that one. Let's see what it has. So does it have a sell sheet? It does not. Okay, flap it is. It says, an impossible crime, a detective on the edge of madness, the future of time travel at stake. January Cole's job just got a whole lot harder. Not that running security at the Paradox was ever really easy, nothing simple at a hotel where the ultra-wealthy tourists arrive costumed for a dozen different time periods, all eagerly waiting to catch their flights to the past. Or where proximity to the time port makes the clocks run backward on occasion and, rumor has it, allows ghosts to stroll the halls. None of that compares to the corpse in room 526, the one that seems to be both there and not there, the one that somehow only January can see. On top of that, some very important new guests have just checked in, because the US government is about to privatize time travel technology, and the world's most powerful people are on hand to stake their claims. January is sure the timing isn't a coincidence, neither are those, quote, accidents that start stalking their bidders. There's a reason January can glimpse what others can't, a reason why she's the only one who can catch a killer who's operating invisibly and in plain sight all at once. But her ability is also destroying her grip on reality, and as her past, present, and future collide, she finds herself confronting not just the hotel's dark secrets, but her own. At once a dazzlingly time-twisting murder mystery and story about grief, memory, and what it means to literally come face-to-face with our ghosts, The Paradox Hotel is another unforgettable speculative thrill ride from acclaimed author Robert Hart. And, I think it actually does sound really neat, doesn't it? Sounds wildly entertaining. So this is The Paradox Hotel from Random Penguin. Okay, now I'm moving on to... I can't really read who this is from, so... Oh, very nice and very unexpected. It's in from Orbit, and it is a physical arc for The Bladed Faith, which is a new book by David Dalgleish, epic fantasy writer. It says this one is coming out April the 5th, and it's a lovely cover, and this one is actually getting some pretty good advanced buzz, as I understand. So, it says, every shadow hides a truth, every hero hides a lie. A usurped prince will take up the mantle of a deadly assassin to reclaim his kingdom, his people, and his slain gods. In the explosive start to USA Today bestseller David Dalgleish's new epic fantasy trilogy. Cyrus was 14 when his country was invaded, his gods slain, and his parents, the king and queen, beheaded in front of him. After years held prisoner in the invaders' court, a mysterious group of revolutionaries breaks him free and gives him the chance for revenge that he's always dreamed of. In exchange, he will become the figurehead of their rebellion. He will become a hero to unite the people and strike fear in the hearts of the Imperials. He will take up the skull mask and twin swords and become the legendary Vagrant, an unparalleled assassin of otherworldly skill. But not is all as it seems. Creating the illusion of a hero is the work of many, and Cyrus will soon discover the true price of his vengeance. All right. Definitely a lot of backhanded political dealings going on in this one. But The Bladed Faith by David Dalgleish, like I said, available on April the 5th from Orbit. And this next one is in from HarperCollins. This is the finished copy of one that's already out, came out on the 1st of February, and I think I put it in my anticipated. I've forgotten by now. So many books in those lists. But this is Hunt the Stars. It's the new book by Jessie Mihalik. And she had a previous trilogy, I believe, was a space opera with a romantic bent, right? Probably like the Liaden universe stuff, right? Things like that. Or maybe, Shards of Honor. So if you're a fan of those books, you might like what she does. Anyway, let's see what it says. Here it is, over here. Octavia Zarola would do anything to keep her tiny, close-knit bounty hunting crew together, even if it means accepting a job from Torrin Fletcher, a ruthless former general and bitter adversary. When Torrin offers her enough credits to not only keep her crew afloat, but also hire someone to fix her ship, Tavi knows that she can't refuse, no matter how much she'd like to. But when they uncover a deeper plot that threatens the delicate peace between humans and Velofs, Tavi suspects that Torrin has been using her as the impetus for a new war. With the fate of her crew balanced on a knife's edge, Tavi must decide where her loyalties lie, with the quiet Velof who's been lying to her, or with the human leaders who left her squad to die on the battlefield. And this time she's put her heart on the line. Well, that was your first mistake, Tavi. But anyway, Hunt the Stars, available now from Harper Voyager. And next up, also from Harper Voyager, we have A River Enchanted, a new book by Rebecca Ross. This actually comes out tomorrow in hardcover. Very nice looking edition. It says, House of Earth and Blood meets The Witch's Heart in Rebecca Ross's brilliant first adult fantasy set on the magical Isle of Cadence, where two childhood enemies must team up to discover why girls are going missing from their clan. Jack Tamerlane hasn't stepped foot on Cadence in 10 long years, content to study music at the mainland university. But when young girls start disappearing from the Isle, he is summoned home to help find them. Enchantments run deep on Cadence. Gossip is carried by the wind. The hills can whisk away travelers who dare to go off-road. And plaid shawls can be as strong as armor. The fire, water, earth, and wind spirits rule the island, indifferent to the lives of the humans who call it home and the enmity between clans. Adara, heiress of the East and Jack's childhood enemy, knows the spirits only answer to a bard's music, and she hopes Jack can draw them forth by song, enticing them to return the missing girls. As Jack and Adara reluctantly work together, they find they make better allies than rivals, as their partnership, of course, turns into something more. But with each passing song, it becomes apparent the trouble with the spirits is far more sinister than they first expected, and an older, darker secret about Cadence lurks beneath the surface, threatening to undo them all. With unforgettable characters, a fast-paced, there it is, Thomas, plot, a fast-placed pot, there we are, and compelling world-building, A River Enchanted is a stirring story of duty, love, and the power of true partnership, and marks Rebecca Ross's brilliant entry on the adult fantasy stage, and it is out tomorrow in hardcover from Harper Voyager, A River Enchanted. Moving on down the line, this one is in from Simon & Schuster. This one looks very nice. This is Beneath the Stairs. It's a book by Jennifer Fawcett. It comes out from Atria Books on the 22nd. And it says it's a spine-tingling atmospheric debut for fans of Jennifer McMahon, Simone St. James, and Chris Bojalian. A woman returns to her hometown after her childhood friend attempts suicide at a local haunted house, the same place where a traumatic incident shattered their lives 20 years ago. Few and sleepy Sumner's Mills have stumbled across the Octagon House, hidden deep in the woods. Even fewer are brave enough to trespass. A man had killed his wife and 2 young daughters there, a shocking, gruesome crime that the sleepy upstate New York town tried to bury. One summer night, an emboldened 14-year-old Claire and her best friend Abby ventured into the Octagon House. Claire came out, but a piece of Abby never did. Ooh. 20 years later, an adult Claire receives word that Abby has attempted suicide at the Octagon House and now lies in a coma. With little to lose and still grieving after a personal tragedy, Claire returns to her roots to uncover the darkness responsible for Abby's accident. An eerie page-turner, Beneath the Stairs is about the trauma that follows us from childhood to adulthood and returning to the beginning to reach the end. All right, so if you're up for a pretty good spook show and also seems to be a bit of psychological horror, Beneath the Stairs out a week from tomorrow, February 22nd from Atria Books. Okay, now we are really getting into the stuff here because this is a big box from Random Penguin and it is heavy. So, multiple titles. It was indeed multiple titles, a big old stack of physical arcs from Random Penguin imprints like Del Rey, I think. And so, first one, are you ready for it? Pretty exciting. It is Locklands. This is going to be the third volume in Robert Jackson Bennett's trilogy that began with Foundryside and Shorefall, and now Locklands is going to be available on June 21st, apparently. Now, I don't really want to give away any spoilers for this one, so I'm just going to go and say, watch my Foundryside review. Why not? That'll give you the primer, get you started on this, and so I guess it's now time for me to go ahead and review Shorefall, which I'm overdue to do, and this one at the same time, I guess. But this will be out. Locklands finishing up the trilogy on June the 21st from Del Rey Books. And next up, we have this new book from Kirsten White. It's called Hide. And this appears to be, I know Kirsten White is, very well known as a YA author of thrillers and spooky books, I guess. But this does appear to be an adult release. Let's see, it's scheduled for May the 24th. And it just says, 14 competitors, 7 days, everywhere to hide but nowhere to run. Come out, wherever you are, hide. And there's a Ferris wheel there, indicating that an amusement park is somehow involved. Okay, it has a very high bar to meet if it wants to, rise to the level of some of the great, amusement park horror stories that have been out there. For example, like Fantastic Land, which I reviewed last year. An amazing book, but this may be a different kind of a thing. It looks like it's sort of a, kill each other reality game in an amusement park. But it's called Hide, and it is out May the 24th. And finally, they went ahead and sent me the physical arc for a book that is actually out. So, could have gotten a finished copy, but that's okay. Very nice to have this. This came out on the 1st of the month, 1st of February, and it is Delilah S. Dawson's new book, The Violence. And yes, it sounds very grim indeed, but let's see what it is all about. It says 3 generations of abused women must navigate a chilling new reality as a mysterious epidemic of violence sweeps the nation in this compelling novel of identity, legacy, and hope. Okay, so you know what you're in for right then and there. This is going to be, some pretty bleak horror. But, horror is... sometimes people who if people aren't into horror, they really, really aren't into it. They can't even conceive of why you would subject yourself to this kind of storytelling. And it's horror is the genre that allows us to address taboo topics within the safe confines of fiction. And it allows us to kind of process traumas, right? And at its best, it is a very, very empathic genre. It's not misanthropic, quite the opposite. Indeed, because the best horror fiction is about human courage and resilience, right? So anyway, this one says, when Chelsea Martin kisses her husband hello at the door of their perfect home, a chilled bottle of beer in hand and dinner on the table, she may look like the ideal wife, mother, and homemaker, but in fact, she's following an unwritten rule book, carefully navigating David's stormy moods in a desperate nightly bid to avoid catastrophe. If family time doesn't go exactly the way David wants, bad things happen to Chelsea and to the couple's 17-year-old daughter, Ella. Cut off from all support, controlled and manipulated for years, Chelsea has no resources and no one to turn to. Her wealthy narcissistic mother, Patricia, would rather focus on the dust on her chandelier than acknowledge Chelsea's bruises. After all, Patricia's life looks perfect on the surface, too. So, generational trauma, right? But the facade crumbles when a mysterious condition overtakes the nation. Known as the violence, it causes the infected to experience sudden explosive bursts of animalistic rage and attack anyone in their path. The ensuing chaos brings opportunity for Chelsea and inspires in her a plan to liberate herself and her family once and for all. Okay, so if you're up for it, The Violence is available now by Delilah S. Dawson in hardcover from Del Rey Books. Okay, onward. Now the next 5 packages. Next 5 are these white Tor or Macmillan envelopes. Okay, so let's see what we're starting out with. Okay, this is the physical arc for Katrina Ward's Sundial. This is from Tor Nightfire, And this will be out next month. I don't have a on my video for anticipated horror the exact day. It will be on that, but I can't remember these things off the top of my head. But anyway, it's now. I'm actually quite eager, to read this, even though I did not care for the big hyped book last year. Her book, The Last House on Needless Street, had my criticisms of that, to put it mildly, but I'm not the sort of person who just gives up on an author after one go, right? I mean, if I did that, I would not have had this exciting, 20-year stretch of reviewing books because I might have missed some really good stuff. So I'm eager to continue to give Catriona Ward a try and see what she's come up with for this one. But in Sundial, it says, "You can't escape what's in your blood. All Rob wanted was a normal life. She almost got it, too. A husband, 2 kids, a nice house in the suburbs, far from her childhood home, Sundial, hidden deep in the wild Mojave Desert. But beneath the veneer, Rob is terrified for her oldest daughter, Callie, who collects tiny bones and whispers to imaginary friends. Rob sees a darkness in Callie, one that reminds her too much of the family she left behind. Running from her past has led her directly back to it. What's buried at Sundial could never stay a secret forever, and Rob must risk one last trip out there to protect her family and her future." All right, so that is Sundial, available next month from Nightfire. And next up, also from Tor, we have this, I believe, has just come out, maybe like last week or week before in hardcover, maybe last week. But this is a debut fantasy novel. The author is Scott Drakeford, and it's Rise of the Mages. And so, yeah, let's see what this one is all about. It says, "The Fallen God Wakes." Okay. Scott Drakeford's epic fantasy debut, Rise of the Mages, combines gripping personal vengeance with compelling characters for an action-packed read. Well, there you are. Emrael Ire. Maybe it's Ire, I-R-E. Yeah, make up your own mind. Wants nothing more than to test to be a weapons master. His final exam will be a bloody insurrection staged by corrupt nobles and priests that enslaves his brother. With the aid of his master of war tutor, herself an undercover mage, Emrael discovers his own latent and powerful talents. To rescue his brother, Emrael must embrace not only his abilities as a warrior, but also his place as last of the ancient mage kings. For the fallen god has returned, and he is hungry. All right then, so you heard the man, action-packed fantasy, now available from Tor in hardcover, Rise of the Mages. Next up, we have The Thousand Eyes. This is by A.K. Larkwood. This is the sequel to a debut novel, The Unspoken Name. And it says, perfect for fans of Jen Lyons, Joe Abercrombie, and Ursula Le Guin. This will be out tomorrow on the 15th in hardcover from Tor. And it says, let's see, Tamsin Muir says it's an unexpected new take on classic orcs and swords fantasy. Stylish, classy, and timeless, but with racing stripes and an inbuilt camera. I cannot recommend this series enough. Okay, well, let me see what I can read. That won't be spoilery for the first one. It says, Arcady Martin says, The Unspoken Name, the prequel to this, is an epic fantasy in the vein of Le Guin's magnificent Tombs of Atuan. If Arha the Eaten One got to grow up to be a swordswoman mercenary enthralled to her dubious wizard mentor. The action is fast-paced and emotionally compelling. The magic is dangerous, beautiful, and utterly compromising. I love this book so much, she says. And so now the sequel is out tomorrow, The Thousand Eyes by A.K. Larkwood from Tor. 2 more of these to go, you guys. Well, here we are. It is the finished copy in hardcover, which came out last week on the 8th, of Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, the pseudonym of Stacy Cade. This was a very, very hyped space opera horror novel, at least ostensibly, which, again, I was not entirely pleased with. So go and watch my review of this one so you can get an idea of whether or not it might be for you. I was talking with my buddy Rachel this morning on Voxer from Shades of Orange, and yeah, she and I were talking about this book and how it seems like we're getting a lot of this sort of thing from Nightfire. Kind of very safe, easily marketable horror books that you think are horror, but then when you read them, turns out they're just thrillers. And so, yeah. Anyway, I was let down by this. The idea is there is a missing space luxury liner. It's been missing for 20 years. And crew, ping, ping, detects the signal and goes out to investigate, and they discover scary things. And then the scary things turn out to be, well, maybe not so scary. But anyway, Dead Silence. It's out now, so you can judge for yourself. Okay, looks like I miscounted. There were 4 of those tour packages, not 5. Oops. But we are wrapping up this week with something pretty exciting indeed. It is this big old care package from Hachette, right? And it's good and heavy too. So let's see what's in here, shall we? All right, looks like there are 4 books in this box, and we're starting out with Azura Ghost by Essa Hansen. This is the second book in the Graven series. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or a longer series or just a duology or what at this point. But it's the sequel to Nofek Gloss. And it says, one man and his sentient starship are all that stand between the multiverse and its total destruction. In the second book of Essa Hansen's brilliant, mind-bending space opera, trilogy, says right there. Well done, Thomas. So let's see. Do I want to give away any spoilers? No, but there's some really quality blurbs on the back here. Anyway, it says Caden has been on the run for 10 years in order to keep his graven ship out of the hands of his old adversary, Thray. But when a childhood friend he once thought dead reappears to take it, he is lured into a game of hunter and hunted with the one person whose powers rival Thray's, his sister, Abris. All right. And so I guess the sibling rivalry now continues in Azura Ghost by Essa Hansen. Next, we have this very attractive hardcover. This is The Great Witch of Brittany by Louisa Morgan. This is, I think, the 4th in a series of witchy novels that she has written, published by the Red Hook imprints. And, yeah, well, let's see what this is all about. I don't know. Spellbinding tale of magic and fate, triumph and heartbreak, and the powerful bonds between mothers and daughters unfolds in the late 1700s. Ooh, okay. Brittany, 1762. There hasn't been a witch born in the Oshiere clan for generations. I'm sure I mispronounced that. According to the elders, that line is dead, leaving the clan vulnerable to persecution. Ursula Oshiere has been raised on stories of the witches of the past, but the only magic she knows are the false spells her mother weaves over the gullible women who visit their fortune-telling caravan. Everything changes when Ursula comes of age, and a spark of power flares to life. Guided by an ancient grimoire and the whispers of her ancestors, Ursula is destined to walk the same path as the great witches of old. First, the Oshiere magical lineage must survive. Danger hovers over Ursula. Will she be able to escape the bloodlust of the mob and the flames of the pyre? Well, I guess you will find out in The Great Witch of Brittany. So I don't have an exact release date on this one, but I'm assuming it is probably this month. And next, a couple of finished copies in hardcover, and it's very nice to have them, starting with The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan, the first book of something called The Empire of the Wolf. This has been getting quite a bit of buzz, so I'm sure I will bump it up the list here a little bit, bump it up the queue. But, let's see, to refresh everyone's memories. It says, from a major new voice in epic fantasy, The Justice of Kings introduces Sir Conrad von Volt, an emperor's justice who is a detective, judge, and executioner all in one. But these are dangerous times to be a justice. The Empire of the Wolf simmers with unrest. Rebels, heretics, and powerful patricians all challenge the power of the imperial throne. Only the Order of Justices stands in the way of chaos. Sir Conrad von Volt is the most feared justice of all, upholding the law by way of his sharp mind, arcane powers, and skill as a swordsman. At his side stands Helena Sadanka, his talented protégé, orphaned by the wars that forged the empire. When the pair investigates the murder of a provincial aristocrat, they unearth a conspiracy that stretches to the very top of imperial society. As the stakes rise and become ever more personal, von Volt and Helena must make a choice. Will they abandon the laws they've sworn to uphold in order to protect the empire? Well, I guess we will see. But, and this apparently has one of Orbit's augmented reality covers. Did you know they did that, by the way? You can, put your phone up to here, and there's, if you go to some Google app, this cover will move about and be all animated. Very cool. All right, so The Justice of Kings, I do believe this is a March or April, probably March release. From Orbit in hardcover. Sounds a bit sort of Joe Abercrombie with some Gene Wolfe going on as well. And last, but by absolutely no means least, we have the finished hardcover of Age of Ash by Daniel Abrahams, the first volume in the Kithamar trilogy, and I've reviewed it already. Thought it was pretty good. And so it is going to be available, I believe, tomorrow in hardcover from Orbit. Very pretty edition. And so again, I'm going to dispense with the plot synopsis because well, it's a couple of young friends, two young women, essentially kind of navigating their way through rather tricky political goings on in their little walled kingdom, as it were. It's mostly, I think, the story. It's better taken as a story of a friendship rather than any of the bigger stakes stuff. But Age of Ash, available, I do think, tomorrow from Orbit in hardcover by Daniel Abraham, half of the Expanse writing team. And there you have it. That's all I've got on this episode of the Mailbag. Like I said, first really good mailbag of the year. So, you know the drill. Light up those comments. Let me know which of these is most interesting and exciting to you, which you would like to see me prioritize for review. Otherwise, if you enjoyed watching, please hit that like button, share the video far and wide with all of your SFF reading friends, and above all, please subscribe. That is how the channel grows. You can also support the channel at my TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits into Wink's Army get little perks like getting to see early access on some of my videos on occasion, if I finish them early enough. But I do want to thank all those lovely people for their added support, because mainly the point of the Patreon is I use that money to pay Matt Olson, my extremely gifted and talented channel artist who does all of my wonderful thumbnails and things for me. So thank you all for that added support. It's greatly appreciated. I want to thank all the rest of you guys for being the very best viewers in all of BookTube, and until I see all of you next time, please stay safe, stay healthy, and happy reading.